Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. The Miami Dolphins are in a precarious spot following the latest injury blow to their cornerback. Room, as Katakohu has officially been ruled out for the entire 2025 season with a serious knee injury. This news, which broke Wednesday, couldn't come at a worse time with training camp just ramping up and positional battles in full swing. Kohu wasn't just another body in the rotation. He was the one cornerback the team had penciled in as a starter from day one. With him gone and Artie Burns also down for the year with a torn ACL, the Dolphins are left patching together a secondary that already had more questions than answers. While Miami quickly responded by adding 3 veterans, Cornell Armstrong, Mike Hilton, and Jack Jones, it's hard to see this group as anything other than a band-aid over a wound that might need surgery. And with how volatile the AFC East is shaping up to be, especially with teams like the Jets and Bills bolstering their passing attacks, the Dolphins can't afford to be thin at cornerback. Armstrong is expected to be more of a special teams contributor. Hilton, a slot specialist, and Jones, while intriguing, has yet to prove he can consistently hold down an outside corner spot in today's NFL. Jack Jones has flashed potential in the past, especially during his time with the Patriots, but he's also had issues with consistency and discipline. Relying on him as your primary outside corner is a gamble, even if he does offer upside. Mike Hilton, meanwhile, is best used in the nickel, and has never been someone you want covering a WR1 or even WR2 on the outside, with the current depth chart relying heavily on unproven players like Storm Duck Cam Smith and Ethan Bonner, not to mention Kendall Sheffield, who wasn't even healthy enough to practice on Wednesday. The Dolphins need to act fast. Their cornerback room might be the weakest in the entire league right now, and if they have any hopes of contending, they need to bring in at least one more proven veteran. That means exploring all available free agent options, even if they come with red flags. The good news: there are still a handful of experienced cornerbacks on the market, including names that have been linked to Miami before. Some are clearly past their prime, but could still offer solid depth and veteran leadership. Others have injury concerns, but would instantly upgrade the unit's ceiling. With that said, let's take a closer look at 5 veteran options who could potentially step in and help stabilize this suddenly shaky secondary. Rasul Douglas is probably the most familiar name to Dolphins fans right now, as Miami reportedly had a standing offer out to him before ultimately opting to sign Mike Hilton and Jack Jones. Douglas is coming off a 2024 season in which he started 15 games for the Buffalo Bills, logging 43 total tackles, 5 passes defended, and 1 forced fumble. On the surface, those numbers aren't awful, but a deeper look at his tape tells a more concerning story. He didn't record a single interception, the first time that's happened since 2020, and he gave up a career-worst passer rating of 116.9. Add in 10 penalties, also a career high, and you can see why Buffalo felt the need to move on, eventually spending a first-round pick on Maxwell Hairston to replace him. Still, Douglas has a track record of making plays and being a ball hawk. 19 career interceptions is nothing to scoff at. The question is whether last season was an outlier or a sign of decline. He turns 30 in late August, so he's not ancient by cornerback standards, and with Miami's zone-heavy defensive philosophy, he might find a better fit in their scheme than he had in Buffalo's. If the price is right, and the Dolphins believe they can put him in a position to succeed, Douglas might still have enough in the tank to help stabilize this unit, even if only as a rotational piece or matchup-based starter. Asante Samuel Jr. is a more tantalizing option, especially from a football standpoint, and not just because of the familiar name. The 24-year-old former Charger has plenty of starting experience and has performed well when healthy. In both 2022 and 2023, he played over 1,000 defensive snaps, compiling 7 interceptions and 22 pass breakups across those seasons. His opposing passer ratings of 81.0 in 2022 and 98.0 in 2023 show he's capable of limiting damage even against top-tier receivers. He also has familiarity with a defensive system similar to what Anthony Weaver runs, thanks to his time under Jesse Minter. In theory, Samuel could walk into the Dolphins facility and instantly be their best cornerback. But the problem lies in his availability. or lack thereof. Samuel missed nearly the entire 2024 season due to a shoulder injury and is now rehabbing from off-season neck surgery, a risky combination for any defender, let alone a corner. Adding to the drama is the fact that his father, former Patriot standout Asante Samuel Sr., absolutely lit up the Dolphins front office on his podcast not long ago. While the elder Samuel did walk back some of his comments recently praising quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. There's no doubt the family history could complicate any potential signing. Still, if Miami is willing to roll the dice, Samuel Jr. could be a steal, a legitimate difference maker in a position group that sorely needs one. Then, there's Stephon Gilmore, the former Defensive Player of the Year and 5-time Pro Bowler, who most recently suited up for the Minnesota Vikings. Though he'll turn 35 in September, Gilmore has managed to stay remarkably durable, appearing in at least 15 games in each of the past 3 seasons. In 2024, he recorded 1 interception, 9 pass breakups, and allowed a passer rating of 94.1. Not elite numbers by any stretch, but certainly serviceable given the circumstances. Gilmore no longer has the closing speed or lockdown ability that made him a household name during his prime. But he remains a savvy veteran with top-tier instincts and strong positioning. If the Dolphins commit to a zone-heavy scheme, he could slot in nicely as a stabilizing force on the outside, taking pressure off some of the younger, less experienced corners on the roster. His football IQ and ability to diagnose plays still stand out on tape, and unlike some of the other names on this list, there are no real health concerns with him. He's a high floor signing, the kind of move you make when you want to raise the level of your baseline play. Gilmore won't win games on his own anymore, but he won't lose them either, and that might be exactly what Miami needs in a year when their cornerback room is reeling from injury and instability. Another name worth discussing is Michael Davis, who spent last season with the Washington Commanders after a multi-year stint with the Los Angeles Chargers. Davis barely saw the field in 2024, making just 2 starts across 15 games, and his stats were underwhelming. 0 interceptions, 1 pass breakup, and a passer rating allowed of 96.1. The limited sample size doesn't inspire confidence, especially since Washington's cornerback group wasn't exactly loaded with talent. However, Davis has proven in the past that he can be a solid contributor, particularly in zone coverage schemes. From 2020 to 2022, he played solid football for the Chargers, often matched up against strong competition in the AFC West. Unfortunately, his 2023 campaign was a step backward, with a passer rating allowed of 119.2, the worst mark of his career. Davis would be a clear downgrade from what the Dolphins hope to have with Kohu, but in a depleted market, beggars can't be choosers. He's not likely to start week 1 unless injuries continue to mount, but as a depth signing, he'd bring some veteran presence and schematic familiarity. With a little luck and the right fit, he could find his form again, or at least offer some security should more young players falter during camp and preseason action. The last option, and frankly the least exciting, is C.J. Henderson. Once a top 10 draft pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2020, Henderson's career has been a story of unmet expectations and constant movement. After flaming out in Jacksonville, he was traded to the Carolina Panthers, where he showed flashes but ultimately failed to earn a long-term role. The Panthers declined to pick up his 5th-year option, and subsequent stops with the Texans and Steelers didn't yield much more success. He spent most of 2024 on Pittsburgh's practice squad and didn't play in a single regular season game. It's telling that the Dolphins brought Henderson in for a tryout recently, but opted to sign Cornell Armstrong instead, a player who hadn't been on an NFL roster since 2022. Still, Henderson's name keeps popping up because of his draft pedigree and the fact that he has 27 career starts under his belt. The Dolphins are clearly scouring every possible avenue for help at cornerback, and if Henderson ends up on the roster, it will be out of sheer desperation rather than strategic planning. His last meaningful action came back in 2019, and even then, the results weren't great. 0 interceptions, 2 pass breakups, and a passer rating allowed of 106.8. Miami might keep him on speed dial, but he's a long shot to make any kind of impact. What's evident here is that the Dolphins are running out of good options and fast. The timing of Kohu's injury couldn't be worse, and the current state of the market is far from inspiring. None of the names listed here are game changers, and most come with significant baggage, whether it be age injuries or recent performance issues. Miami's best path forward might be to sign one or two of these veterans and hope for the best while continuing to develop their young players behind the scenes. Cam Smith and Storm Duck are both intriguing prospects, but relying on them to step up as full-time starters could be asking too much too soon. The reality is that the Dolphins have invested heavily on the offensive side of the ball, and they can't afford for their defense, particularly their secondary, to become a glaring weakness. The AFC East is loaded with passing talent, and every week is going to present a new challenge. If Miami wants to keep pace, they need to act quickly and decisively, even if it means rolling the dice on imperfect solutions. The sooner they bring in reinforcements, the better their chances of holding the fort until someone unexpected steps up or the front office finds a long-term answer at cornerback. Because right now, this team looks dangerously vulnerable on the outside. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments what's your take on the Fins this week. In a move that has taken the NFL world by surprise, rumors are swirling that guard Leander Wigan, formerly with the New York Jets, has struck a deal with the Miami Dolphins. While nothing has been officially confirmed by the front office or the player himself, insiders close to the situation suggest that discussions progressed rapidly over the last few days. Wiegand, a formidable presence on the offensive line, has long been seen as one of the most underrated interior linemen in the league. Standing at 6'5" and weighing in at over 320 pounds, he combines brute strength with surprising agility, making him a nightmare for interior pass rushers. His departure from the Jets comes as a shock, especially given their emphasis on bolstering the offensive line to protect their aging quarterback. If these reports are true, the Dolphins may have just pulled off one of the quietest but most impactful acquisitions of the offseason. What makes this possible signing so compelling is the suddenness with which it seems to have materialized. Just a week ago, Wiegand was spotted working out with Jets teammates and appeared fully integrated into their plans for the 2025 season. Fast forward a few days, and whispers began surfacing on social media that he had been seen meeting with Dolphins personnel in a private suite during a charity event in Fort Lauderdale. While that in itself isn't solid proof of anything, longtime NFL insiders noted that such meetings rarely happen without something brewing in the background. Fans began piecing together clues, flight tracking apps, subtle Instagram follows, cryptic tweets, and the rumor mill kicked into overdrive. Now, with multiple sources hinting that a contract has been finalized pending medical clearance, all eyes are on Miami as the league awaits a formal announcement. Could this be the quiet coup that changes the trajectory of the AFC East? For Miami, the addition of Leander Wiegand, if it becomes official, would represent a significant shift in their offensive philosophy. Over the past few seasons, the Dolphins have built a reputation for prioritizing speed and finesse, relying heavily on quick passes and creative play calling. However, the Achilles heel of their offense has been consistency in the trenches. Their interior line in particular has struggled against top-tier defensive fronts, often collapsing in critical moments. Wiegand brings not only talent but leadership and grit. He's known around the league as a player who finishes blocks with authority and rarely commits mental errors. More importantly, his presence could allow Miami to diversify its offense, giving the quarterback more time and opening up the run game in ways fans haven't seen since the Ricky Williams era. It's the kind of move that could go under the radar now but loom large in December. Jets fans, understandably, are already expressing disbelief and frustration across forums and social media. After investing in a high-profile quarterback and retooling parts of the roster, many believe the Jets were poised for a deep playoff run. Losing a cornerstone like Wiegand, especially to a divisional rival, could create ripple effects far beyond the line of scrimmage. It's not just about replacing a guard, it's about losing chemistry, continuity, and a player who is reportedly beloved in the locker room. Some speculate that this could be the result of front office disagreements or contract mismanagement, with one source suggesting Wiegand felt undervalued despite his contributions. If that's true, it marks a concerning trend for New York, which has seen several key pieces slip away in recent seasons. Could this departure signal deeper issues within the organization? Or is it simply a case of a player chasing a better opportunity? In Miami, the locker room appears energized by the mere possibility of Wigan joining their ranks. Several players have been posting cryptic emojis and messages that fans interpret as hints of an incoming major addition. The idea of shoring up the offensive line with a veteran like Wigan, especially as the Dolphins aim to make a serious postseason push, seems to have lit a fire under the roster. While the team has remained officially silent, head coach Mike McDaniel was notably evasive when asked about potential free agent signings during a recent press conference. "We're always looking to improve," he said with a grin, "but I don't discuss hypotheticals." In the world of NFL press conferences, that's practically a confirmation. It wouldn't be the first time Miami worked quietly behind the scenes to bring in a big name. And if the whispers are right, the impact of this addition could be felt immediately. Leander Wigan's potential move also brings interesting strategic implications. Known for his run-blocking prowess, he could allow Miami to develop a more physical ball control offense to complement their existing high-speed passing attack. That versatility might prove crucial in games where clock control and trench warfare determine the outcome. Analysts have pointed out that in past matchups, Miami often struggled to assert dominance at the line, leading to predictable play calls and stalled drives. With Wigan, they gain a player who doesn't just plug a hole, but elevates the entire unit. His football IQ is frequently praised by coaches, and he's rarely caught out of position. Moreover, his ability to pull on sweeps and reach the second level could unlock new dimensions in Miami's screen game. If deployed correctly, Wigan could be the chess piece that allows Miami to stay one step ahead of opposing defenses all season long. What adds an extra layer to this developing story is the possibility that Wigan himself pushed for the move. Several league sources suggest he was frustrated with his role in New York's evolving offense, especially after the team brought in new coaches and changed blocking schemes. Wigan, who thrives in a power blocking system, may have felt stifled in a more zone-oriented approach. If that's the case, Miami's system, which blends both philosophies but leans more toward power concepts in key situations, could be an ideal fit. It wouldn't be the first time a talented lineman sought a scheme change to maximize his impact. Remember when Trent Williams revived his career in San Francisco after leaving Washington? The parallels are there, and Dolphins fans have every reason to be excited. It's not just about filling a need, it's about aligning player strengths with system demands, and that's where championships are born. The timing of his rumored signing is also worth examining. With training camps underway and the preseason looming, adding a player like Wigan now gives Miami valuable time to integrate him into their schemes. Offensive line play relies heavily on cohesion and communication, and rushing the process can lead to missteps in critical moments. However, getting a veteran like Wigan acclimated early means the Dolphins could hit the ground running when the regular season begins. It also sends a strong message to the rest of the locker room. The front office is serious about winning now. That kind of urgency can galvanize a team, especially one that has been on the cusp of postseason success in recent years. If all goes according to plan, Miami won't just be plugging a hole, they'll be setting the foundation for a run at the AFC crown. Of course, the Dolphins aren't the only ones watching this unfold. Other teams around the league are surely taking note, particularly those in the AFC East. The Bills and Patriots, long considered the top dogs in the division, may now find themselves contending with a Miami team that's bigger, stronger, and smarter in the trenches. In a league where games are often decided by inches, adding a player of Wigan's caliber could tip the scales. There's also the psychological impact of poaching a starter from a rival. It plants seeds of doubt and disrupts internal dynamics. Jets players may say the right things publicly, but losing a guy like Wigan is bound to sting. It raises questions about their depth, their scouting, and their long-term planning. Meanwhile, in Miami, the mood is shifting. If the rumors hold true, the Dolphins might finally be ready to rise above the hype and deliver on their potential. That's it. The end of the day, we won't know the full truth until the ink dries and the announcement is made. But all signs point toward Leander Wigan suiting up in aqua and orange this season. For fans, it's a thrilling development, a burst of optimism in a summer full of speculation. For the league, it's a reminder that sometimes the biggest moves don't come with fireworks or headlines. They happen quietly, behind closed doors, with whispers that gradually turn into roars. If Wigan truly makes the jump to Miami, the Dolphins may have added more than just a guard. They may have added a cornerstone. And for the Jets, it could be the beginning of a long season filled with what-ifs. Either way, this story is far from over. Stay tuned, because if history has taught us anything, it's that the NFL never sleeps. And neither do the rumors that keep us all watching. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.